This is another Arsenal in My Blood podcast with your host, AJ Matuchniak. Now, I know, unfortunately, you guys aren't hearing the chocolatey, sexy voice of Stevie Hurst or the faint sound of fapping from our very own Naked Suhail. Unfortunately for you guys, you're stuck with the two Americans who are going to talk about soccer. Anyway, how are you doing, my good friend Ryan?
Doing well, AJ. I was just panically searching what our parachute payments to the championship would be if Arsenal were to get relegated after being at the bottom of the table for a week. But luckily we got the 3 points at Palace, so I think we're going to stay up just barely. So
can I just say that right at the end of the game? By the way, I'm in England. I should say that I've been to.
Oh, you are. You're still there.
Yeah, I'm still here. I've been to the first two games of the season. And for the Crystal Palace game, after we won 2-1, all the Arsenal fans were singing, "We are staying up." I said, "We are staying up," and it was so great because we were just
you were at Selhurst.
Yeah, I was.
Oh, brilliant!
Great crowd, by the way. I have to admit, do like the Emirates, but gotta admit, away support is much better because you're not going to travel to an away game unless you're a true Gooner. So gotta admit, great.
That's on my bucket list for sure. Is an away match with the Arsenal support. I didn't see a picture posted from you with a big metal beam right in your viewpoint and with a hashtag against modern football. So you clearly didn't do the whole journey correct, because that's what everyone does nowadays.
Yeah, I guess I missed one on that one. But yeah, I'm actually going to be seeing the Liverpool game, which should be a good crowd. I mean, I know it's home, but I think we will be loud for that one. That's a big game. And then I'm actually going all the way up to Newcastle. And Newcastle, all the English people know, but that's actually completely on the other side. It's as far north as Scotland almost. So it's about a 7-hour bus trip, and I'm actually waking up at 3 a.m. to go ahead and get on that bus and go. So yeah, oh god, I'm not really looking forward to that part, but I mean, it'll be a good game. I'm pretty happy I'm getting to see 4 games.
You're giving, AJ, I must say, you're giving the foreign Arsenal fan isn't a true supporter narrative. You're really giving that a big hit this past few weeks with all your in-person visits to the matches. That's how dare you?
Yeah,
how dare you actually spend your money, time, and energy to travel and go see the Arsenal? It's not how it's supposed to be.
No, us soccer fans don't know anything. I mean, come on.
No.
But anyway, moving on. So, usually this is the time where Steve will ask me, how am I doing? So I got to admit,
how are you doing?
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. I was kind of waiting for you to ask me this whole time. I started rambling on about crap just because you didn't ask me. But anyway, now that we've moved on past that, I'm doing pretty well, but not too well. So, it's better than normal. But one of the reasons that I kind of feel good and bad is because, long story, but I'll keep it a little shorter. I actually have a Polish grandmother, and so we were hanging out here. She lives in England, and I asked her, I'm like, okay, how do you how do you pronounce Wojciech Szczesny? And I think Wojciech was actually pretty accurate.
Yeah.
But Szczesny, we've heard Sir Chesney, which I don't know where they get Sir Chesney from. We've heard Szczesny, which is kind of what I say, and maybe a few other variations, but it's actually let me get ready for this. Szczesny.
No, come on.
It's Szczesny. I swear. She literally told me, she spelled it out how it's supposed to sound, and it's pretty much, if it was like in English, it's SHCHOWSNY. So Szczesny. But it's not like that because that sounds too English. It's got a little bit of an accent that goes up and down very quick. So it's Szczesny. I was gonna say
that sounds like if James Brown were still alive and he was asked to pronounce that name, that's exactly how he would say it by how that sounded.
Oh my god! So
that's got a little soul to it, a little Polish soul. I love it.
Because apparently the E has some it's not an accent, but whatever the equivalent is in Polish, it's got some kind of squiggly thing, so it's Szczesny. But anyway, so the reason I'm not too good after that is because now that I've learned that, I want to learn more Arsenal names and their pronunciations, just such as whether it's Gnabry or Gnabry. Still confused on that.
Two questions I have for you based off your anecdote about your Polish grandmother.
Yes.
Is she on Twitter, and is she an ITK in terms of Krychowiak at Sevilla? That's what the world needs to know right now.
Yeah. Unfortunately, she's not on Twitter. She
Okay.
does not know how to use social media very well. She's getting a little bit better at Facebook. She's understanding that a bit. But yeah, I honestly kind of just want to sit down and ask her about every single Polish name I know, just because Szczesny doesn't look at all like Szczesny. So anyway,
So you had no input on Krychowiak of Sevilla if he's potentially on the move to Arsenal.
yeah, I was gonna ask her to see if she had his number, but she didn't, I guess. So
Okay, for another day then.
yeah, for another day. Anyway,
Fair
let's
enough.
move on to the Crystal Palace game. A good 2-1 victory over them. Start off with about 6 minutes in, Alexis had that counter-attacking chance after Crystal Palace kind of failed to do their corner kick. Kabay out all the way out to Kabay on the top of the box. Missed that chance. Alexis went running, and Ozil feeded it into him, and he just kind of got it stuck under his foot, didn't he?
Yeah, his first touch was a little off. It kind of bobbled, and then in his the chance went missing the first go around. It got lucky to get it back. I think it was blocked off by the defender, and then cleared off the line. But I think that chance and previous, a couple other chances Alexis had, I think, maybe 2 or 3 weeks in, once he get his full fitness and form back, I think you'll see those chances being finished off. But it was promising to see. At least we came out of the gates, with a ton of energy. We were very sharp. I think that's more than anything, that's what we lacked against West Ham, was just sharpness. Passes were buzzing. We were making good runs off the ball. We took the game right to them from the start, and that kind of set the tempo really for the entire match.
Yeah, and Alexis was kind of the key part to that. Had a few chances early on, but then still pretty early on in the game, 16 minutes in, Cazorla kind of slowing down the play, looks up, sees Ozil, then starts to make the play go a little bit faster, plays it to Ozil, and Ozil just picks his head up, sees Giroud, kind of a miscued pass, but I mean, is it really a miscued pass? Because it's Ozil. 54 out of 55 passes completed, 98.2% pass completion. I mean, I think he knows what he's doing, but Giroud does amazingly well. And I'm surprised we've not heard more about this goal. It's a fantastic finish. Juan Mata-esque like he did last season, but I swear, every single commercial I see that has anything to do with last season, it always has Juan Mata's goal in it. Oh, so great. But I thought Giroud's was equally as difficult, if not more. And, on Match of the Day, they talked about it one time and then kind of moved on. So, I don't know. I was offended by that.
I think we have to just unfortunately live with the fact that there's a narrative that Giroud is in other people's terms not good enough or not world class or just he's kind of reached his plateau in terms of his effectiveness and his rating ability. I mean, if that goal would have been scored by Wayne Rooney, then of course the British media wouldn't shut up about it, and he'd be reconfirmed as his world class status, which of course Rooney is not. But that's fine. It's similar. You touched on the Ozil pass and his performance. He was man of the match for me, and he completely bossed the game. But I was having a go on Twitter with and our American listeners or other viewers that find an NBC Sports stream, Robbie Mustoe, who is a former Premier League veteran, so not that he has no experience or how the league operates.
Is Robbie Mustoe? I forget which Robbie's which. Is that the bobbly head?
Robbie is the white Robbie. Robbie
Okay.
Musto is the white Robbie. Robbie Earl is the black Robbie. So
Yeah.
that's really the easiest way to differentiate them.
Do you
But
ever
Robbie
do you ever
Musto.
think that Robbie Earl looks a little bit like a bobblehead? His head kind of bobbles back and forth
Oh,
a
I
little bit
can
when he
see that. He does.
speaks.
He does have a squarish type head.
Yeah.
He does, but a handsome bloke nonetheless is Robbie Earl, I think. But anyways,
Yeah.
Robbie Musto. He made a mention on Twitter, and he was in the pre-match show. He was saying he was rolling out the old Ozil narrative, how he's not basically lived up to the hype. He hasn't lived up to the price tag, and then he went on Twitter after the match, and he said, Ozil's a good player. I just think he can do more. Only had 4 league assists, and this is what absolutely does my head in with when people talk about really any player, but we see it a ton with Ozil is and this really resonates with American audience because we're so obsessed with stats and measuring players' value based solely on stats. First of all, Robbie Musto, you got the stat wrong. He had 6 league assists. He had 4 goals. So first of all, as a national pundit, right, the entire nation of America is hearing your opinion on Mesut Ozil. First of all, get your stats right. Second of all, you should know you can't measure a player by goals, assists. You just can't, especially a player like Mesut Ozil. If you want to measure him by one stat, measure him by chances created. Okay, and I actually had a go at him on Twitter about this. I said, look at chances created. Mesut Ozil, he can't score from his own passes. And what I mean by that is he can't finish the chances he creates, right? And we've seen it time and again that the balls he puts in for Giroud, for Walcott, we saw it with Alexis last game. He should have had 3 assists, but he can't finish his own chances that he creates. So it just really bothers me when people look at assists only for Mesut Ozil and they don't actually watch him play. They don't see how he links play up. They don't see how he brings everyone else into the game and the chances he creates. So, but you know what? He stepped up big time and had an absolute boss of a performance.
And Robbie Musto, are you telling me that if Ozil plays the perfect pass through to Alexis, who just side foots it easily to Giroud to finish, that Ozil didn't really create that? Yes, Alexis gets the assist, but Ozil made the pass that maybe got to Alexis,
Yeah.
which was much more difficult than maybe Alexis's just little side pass to Giroud, just as an example.
And that's why you
yeah,
can't look at stat. You can't look at the basic goals, assists, and I swear pundits go to the fantasy Premier League page. They look at total points and they determine who's the best player in the league by that. I mean, it's ridiculous, but
yeah,
what can we do?
no, but a little bit later in the game, I was with the Arsenal fans as I just previously mentioned, and we're singing just like the Emirates because we like to make fun of ourselves, but also we were out singing the Crystal Palace fans completely. So we started singing just like the Emirates because everybody makes fun of the Emirates for being a quiet stadium. But unfortunately, like literally 10 seconds into us singing that song, ball comes over to Ward, just finishes it bottom corner. Koscielny left, turning his head, standing there. So that really shut us up. And then they ended up singing just like the Emirates a couple minutes later. So that was a tough 5 minutes. But what are your thoughts on that goal?
Well, it was a momentary lapse of falling asleep. I think you look at the ball played in. I think it was punch in. First of all, actually, there's a few mistakes. I think Ramsey. You look at Ramsey. He goes to close out punch in, and he kind of just lazily. I like to compare it if you're doing a closeout in basketball. He kind of just ran. He kind of just sprinted out at him, and all punch in had to do was basically like a shot fake in basketball. He kind of raised his shoulders. Ramsey flew by him, shifted onto his other foot, and he had the space. So Ramsey could have done better at actually closing down and staying in front. The ball comes in. I think actually Monreal was at fault where he both him and Koscielny both went to Balassi, which left MacArthur unmarked, and where he was able to just lay it off for Ward, who was also unmarked by a combination of Alexis not tracking back, and Ozil could have done more in terms of getting himself into a defensive position to block off that path. And I mean, credit to Ward, he arrows the shot right into the corner. I mean, it was a perfectly struck ball, kind of a probably once in a season type hit from a right back like that. But of course, it's against the Arsenal, so that we have to come to expect that. The Koscielny talking points, which was a popular one, when the goal went in. It's interesting because he had the same lack of movement, I should say, for the second goal with West Ham. Yeah. So I wonder, and I don't, from a coaching standpoint, from a playing at a high level standpoint, I don't have any insight to this, but I wonder if that's not something that is taught at the club, whereas the defenders are taught to basically stand still and to not try and deflect the ball, so you're basically giving your goalkeeper the best chance possible to get set up, to have vision of the shot. Whereas if you stick a leg out, you stick it, it could lead to a deflection, and that could lead to an own goal. So I wonder if that's just an individual bad habit that Koscielny has, or if that's something that he's actually instructed to do on the training ground. So I'm curious to know that. I've seen Mertesacker throw his body in the way for similar positions and to get blocks on the ball. You see it, other teams do it. So maybe it's just a bad habit on Koscielny's part. That's something we can, we'll see as the matches go on. But either way, not something you'd like to see a few minutes after scoring. We've seen it time and again with Arsenal of conceding, kind of switching off. So kind of a, oh, here we go again type moment.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. I do see your point about maybe the goalkeeper wanting to be able to see the ball, and if a deflection happens, you never know, it could end up in the goal, as we know with our second goal. But I feel like it must be a Koscielny problem, and it's strange though because out of all the defenders, he's probably one of the more aggressive ones. He's the goal, doesn't mind getting hit, so. Yeah, it's surprising that 2 games in a row he doesn't step to the ball, and I hope it's not something that we'll see too much. Hopefully it's just 2 games in a row. But the fact that it did happen 2 games in a row, yeah, of course it hurt us in the West Ham game, but because we still ended up winning the Crystal Palace game, it could be a blessing in disguise because now maybe Wenger has said, hey, look, it's happened twice, get your act together, don't let it happen again. So hopefully no more harm will be done from that kind of a thing. But anyway, later in the game, 48 minutes in, right after halftime, Wickham almost gets that goal. Lovely ball from Zaha. And Wickham just guides it onto the post. But I gotta admit, I shit my pants there for a second because some of the Crystal Palace fans started cheering. So, yeah, I was quite nervous about that. But what do you think about that situation? Because it was kind of weird that Bellerin was marking their striker Wickham, who is he's got to be 6'2" to 6'4". He's quite a tall lad. Do you feel a little disconcerted that Bellerin was marking him and Mertesacker and Koscielny were kind of both in no man's land?
Yeah, I think the ball came in, and I think it was over the heads of both Mertesacker and Koscielny, and ideally those two should be split, whereas if Mertesacker is going to defend kind of the near post run or that area, Koscielny then should be picking up the striker, which in that instance was Wickham. It almost seemed like he was in a wide position, so I think it actually made sense for Bellerin to track that run because I think he came in from that area. But it was a little worrying, and I made a mention of this last season. And again, it's nothing to panic about, but I think Bellerin still has a long way to go to become a top class defensive right back. We saw it obviously for the Wickham chance, and also later in the game, Punchin had a chance where he, I think, controlled the ball off his chest, and he kind of just lobbed it over an on-rushing Bellerin, and then he just kind of had a free path to goal, and he ended up scuffing his shot, but that could have easily been an equalizer. But so I think again, Bellerin's going to learn. He's going to learn as opportunities like this happen. but it's, before we anoint him as the next, starting right back for Spain for the next 12 years. I think we need to have a little perspective and say he's still got ways to go on the defensive side of the game.
Yeah, definitely. But as you were speaking on the offensive side of the game, in the 55th minute, created a chance. He's as good as he's as good as Ozil at creating chances. Because I mean, look at them, both on one assist in this season so far. So, what would you think of Bellerin's cross? I didn't even see Alexis. If you watch the replays, you don't even see Alexis come until the very last minute, and just completely outjumps Ward, who's a big lad for a right back. He's got to be around 6 foot, 6'1". But Alexis, again, I remember he had one of those last season, maybe against Burnley or Hull or something, where he out jumped a tall defender.
Well, as the great Ray Hudson would say, and our American listeners should know who I'm referencing. Alexis leapt out of the river like a freshwater salmon. He really did. He really just came out of nowhere and absolutely just. I mean, Ward didn't help himself by kind of ducking. I'm not sure why he seemed to be ducking out of the way, but Alexis just absolutely leaped right on top of him, right over him. Really, there wasn't any contact, any illegal contact, I should say, and really just showed his hunger to get on the end of the ball and luck. I mean, I think the ball. I think his initial header was going on target, and I think obviously Delaney, deflected into the goal, but a brilliant effort from Alexis to get on the end of it, and a great ball picked out by Hector, as you mentioned. Not easy. Took that first time and kind of side-footed. Had some pace to it. Had some almost left to right kind of angling to it. So perfect ball and brilliant to get that response right. 7 minutes or so right after halftime.
No, it was a very, very good goal. And happy we ended up winning the game 2-1. But to continue talking more about the game, a little bit later we saw Oxlade-Chamberlain come on for Coquelin. So really quickly before I get to the Ox, what do you think of Coquelin? Do you think he should have been sent off throughout the game, or do you think the referee made the right decision just to warn him, just to give him the final warning before he got subbed?
I wouldn't have been surprised to see a second yellow produced. I didn't think it was a yellow card offense. I think if you actually see the foul, yes, he puts his hands on Zaha's back, but he goes down so easily. I mean, that contact, that type of contact happens, numerous times throughout a match, just in jostling, for the ball or battling in midfield. So I don't think the foul was. I think we all get enamored with, if somebody's on a yellow, like there's this unwritten rule that their next foul is automatically a second yellow, and that's just not the case. So I think actually the ref did show good restraint by seeing the type of foul it was and not giving him the second yellow. Now, he did basically say to him, and he actually pulled out over Mertesacker, basically say, okay, next foul, he's going to be sent off. So I like that the ref did that. Didn't let the crowd affect him. Didn't let, again, that narrative of must send somebody off if they've committed a foul with a yellow card. He didn't get pulled into that, to that situation. So I think it was a fair result. If that was happened to, if we were on the other side of it, of course, we'd be screaming bloody murder for him to be sent off. But I think objectively it was the right decision.
No, I agree, because I think the first foul was definitely not a yellow card, and we were all shocked, like you said, that he got a red or a yellow card from that. I think the second tackle, might have been the second or third tackle he made, was close to being a yellow card worthy of a tackle. So I mean, at that point, I think that's why the Palace fans were screaming at him, wanting it to be a second yellow, because I think the second one was worse. But I think the first one didn't even deserve to be a yellow. So to be fair, I think he was just one foul away from getting a red card. But I mean, obviously we've talked about it objectively. But on Coquelin himself, Wenger talked to him at halftime. We listened to the interviews, and Wenger said at halftime to Coquelin to calm it down, and he said, well, it's in Coquelin's game to be aggressive. And I do think that that's true. And I like that Coquelin does that. And I think Coquelin knows that the fans like that he does that. but I have to admit I was really nervous, especially because the crowd really was screaming at him to be sent off. So I don't know. I think it's good that he has a lot of aggression, and I don't mind him getting a yellow card here and there. But I have to admit, I think he made a few tackles that he pulled off, but I shit my pants
Yeah.
thinking
Yeah.
this guy's walking a
He,
tightrope.
yeah, he did have a few when he was already on a yellow where he did win the ball, but it was a lunging, sliding challenge where he has to absolutely get the ball, otherwise that is a surefire second yellow. I did like though that that Wenger had a quick leash with him. You could tell he was, right on the verge of getting that second yellow. He had no hesitation. He pulled him right off, got him out of there. So we didn't, run the risk of getting sent off and down to 10 men. And I do like the fact first of all, I think Coughlin had an excellent game just in terms of his his presence and his really running that midfield area. But I also did like how when Arteta came on, he really shored up that area as well. So we really didn't fall off in terms of having that presence, that aggressive presence. And I think Arteta has shown, with all the talk of his legs are gone and he's past it, he can't play anymore. I've seen a little bite in his game, albeit it's been just 2 matches. But when he has come on, he has brought that kind of tenacity. He's left a few late challenges in. He's kind of pushed some guys around. So I think he's showing that he can maybe be that viable, auxiliary utility, defensive midfield option. And also obviously provide that leadership, provide a good passing ability in that defensive third. So I think those are some good signs.
Yeah, on the topic of Arteta though, he was not subbed on for Coquelin. He was subbed on later in the game. So obviously, I think that means Wenger is still uncertain about Arteta, which makes me wonder why he hasn't bought another defensive mid. But we won't get too much into that.
Yeah,
but
I think he wants to use him if we're up a goal and it's 10 minutes left, to bring him on and just add another layer of a shield in front of that defense. He's not going to come on probably in the 60th minute or earlier than that if there's an injury, but just as that kind of a last ditch. All right, let's lock this thing up. I think he's shown, at least early, that he can be that answer for that position.
Can you hear me at all?
I got you. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Sorry. Hopefully that was picked up, but it did just cut out for me right there. But we're still recording, so that's all good. Yeah, I got to admit. So here I'll provide you with an interesting question. If Coquelin's injured or he needs a rest, what do you do? Do you go Arteta Cazorla? Do you go Arteta Ramsey, or do you go Ramsey Cazorla in that double pivot behind Ozil?
I think that's a tough question, and or is there another option? Is there somebody in the marketplace that the club are looking at to be that answer? And I don't know if there's a right answer, because it would depend on who that is. I think right now, if that was to be the case, if Coquelin was not playing, I think we would probably see a Ramsey Cazorla combination in those two deeper midfield positions, and then we'd bring in a Chamberlain, Walcott to play out wide. I don't know if that's a solution to success long term. There's many, debatable points on the pros and cons of that, I'm sure. I'm just not sure who that answer is. If it's a player remain to be purchased that's available in the marketplace, I'm not sure who that player is that satisfies those needs.
Yeah, because for me, just looking at it, I would automatically, if I was the manager of the team, I would say I would want Ramsey to play alongside Cazorla, probably, if Coquelin is injured or he's about to get a red card or whatever the scenario is. But mostly just Ramsey's athleticism. But ironically, when we do see Cazorla and Ramsey, I mean, when we saw it in preseason, when we saw those two paired together as a double pivot, Cazorla is actually the deepest player, which I can understand on a distribution level because I mean, if Murdersack or Koscielny or any of the defenders pass it to Cazorla, he'll be the closest person to them. He's, you know, even Wenger said it, the most confident person on the ball. He rarely does lose it, even in tight situations. So I understand it from that perspective. But on a defensive perspective, I'd much rather see Ramsey roaming around the field defending like a Coquelin because, as he's quicker, more athletic, probably can be better in the tackle than a Cazorla, who actually, to be quite fair, does put in a little his little quick stab tackles. I do like those that he does, but I mean, athletically, he's not going to be running around the pitch like a Coquelin, able to make a slide tackle or anything. Whereas I think a Ramsey could. So, what would be if you did pair them? What would you do?
Well, I think it depends on matchups. I think you can have the thing is with Ramsey, he doesn't want to stay in that deep area, and he's too active, he's too eager to go forward. His best position, in my opinion, is actually probably the number 10, or and we've seen this, and I want to make a point about this later, but when he starts out wide, I think that is his best position because he's popping up in so many different areas. He's not to say he's not disciplined enough to play in that deep position in midfield, but his attributes don't suit that position for him. I think you can play him there and allow him to get forward, give him a little more freedom, and have Cazorla as the deepest midfielder. If we're playing teams like a Sunderland,
shit teams.
Well, no, I mean just teams that don't have aren't going to have a lot of possession, aren't going to have a lot of power and pace on a counter, don't have a lot of ingenuity, creativity in the middle. So I don't think that would work necessarily against like a City or even a Liverpool, where they're gonna want to get the ball in the middle of the field, push forward, drive forward with pace. I think that's where we could get exposed, having Santi there kind of alone if Ramsey is moving, having a little more freedom. So I think it all depends on matchups, but I do think it can work just depending on who we play.
So speaking of Ramsey playing on the right, I have to admit, I'm not gonna say in hindsight that I thought Ramsey being on the right was the best decision because he did have a good game at Crystal Palace. But for me, I've always said, and I tweeted this a lot before the Crystal Palace game and before the West Ham game, that out of the three front players, for me, you have to have two pacey players. If Giroud is a striker, I would love to have an Alexis and a Walcott, or an Alexis and a Ox, or whatever the combination is. However, to be fair to Ramsey, after watching the Crystal Palace game, when he did play on the right, he even said in an interview he was getting into a lot of deeper positions more forward positions where he was able to get into the box, and he was kind of almost like an Ozil in the sense that you didn't really know where he was going to pop up. I admittedly, I don't like it that he cuts inside a little too much for me sometimes, because I think sometimes, let's say an Alexis from the left would play it to Cazorla, who would look to the right, and Ramsey would be practically next to him, and there's nobody on the right, which maybe you could see a Bellerin going there, so that could be a possibility. But for me, I do like usually having a winger there. But having Ozil and Ramsey both being kind of unpredictable and not knowing where to mark them it did look pretty dangerous against Crystal Palace. So you're saying, let's say Cazorla is injured for some reason, would you rather see Ramsey play alongside Coquelin in that position, that box-to-box position where everybody pretty much has said that's his best position, or in this right winger position? Because I mean, I've not heard a person say they prefer him on the right, but you just said you like him there.
Here's the thing, and it's going to be my hot take of the pod. So we as all football fans, not just Arsenal fans, we have to get over with the infatuation of formations and where players quote unquote line up. Okay, I know they have to. When we watch a match on telly, we see the formation 4-2-3-1. Oh, Ramsey's on the right. Wenger out, doesn't know what he's doing. He's waiting wasting Ramsey. Listen, Ramsey was not playing on the right. Okay. Yes, he may have started there when the kickoff whistle happened. Look at his positions during the match. He was popping up everywhere. He probably played more as a second striker that match than he did as a right winger. He was central. He was deep. He was up top. Look at the chance he had when he had that little flick on the outside of his right boot. He was higher than Giroud. He was a striker. I mean, the position he took up was that of a center forward. So we have to get over with this preconceived notion that just because Sky Sports puts a formation that says Ramsey is on the right, he's not a right winger. He's not even. Not only is he not a right winger by what we know as a definition of a right winger, but he's not. Wenger's not asking him to be one. Clearly, he gives him full license to roam anywhere, basically in the front four positions, and that's what makes our system so deadly and so unpredictable and hard to mark. Is because Ozil doesn't play in the center. He pops up on. Look at his assist. His assist was from the left wing. So did Wenger play him on the left? No, he popped up in that position. All those positions are interchangeable within the Arsenal system, and we've been watching Arsenal long enough to know that we don't have a structured attacking system where players are set like they're not like Palace. You know, they have Zaha and Balassi. Those are out and out wingers, and they're instructed to hug the byline, stay wide, get crosses in, run at the fullback. That's their system. Okay, Arsenal. They don't employ that system. They don't have traditional wingers in the sense. And what you're talking about is you'd like to see a pace on either side of the number 10. Where the Arsenal system make up for that is that's where you see Bellerin and Monreal. They provide the width. They make those runs on the outside where you get the width because you have your quote unquote wingers coming inside and having that creativity, basically overloading the middle of the park, which that's how you break down defenses. You overload the middle of the park, you pull center halves out, you open up the spaces behind. So that's really what the system does. So we just have to get over the fact that because of we see a player's name on a Sky Sports graphic that says he's out on the wide, he is not playing wide. It's okay, everybody. He's not playing out there. He's just they have to put in some kind of cookie cutter formation, and therefore that's where Ramsey is. So yes, it works. Yes, it can work because he has the creative freedom to roam in the front four positions. Rant, yeah. Hot take over.
Hashtag Ryan rants. No, but actually that is actually a very good point because you're right. I mean, I think if Ramsey had Debussy behind him, don't think it's the same. But with Bellerin, I mean, Bellerin practically is a winger sometimes, as we saw for the second goal. So I do think it's a system that can work. But again, I feel like I'm just saying this in hindsight because I did like him playing there, and I do think it will work against certain teams. But in other teams, we just look very congested sometimes. You know, when we're playing other teams where they kind of hold back and Ramsey's almost clutters the midfield, then you almost don't want another person who's going to play central. So I guess Wenger just has to pick and choose his games when to play Ramsey on the right. But anyway, moving on from that, what did you think of the decision not to start Ox? Because, I mean, in the West Ham game, nobody was good. And I know Ox was liable with, he didn't do well trying to get the ball out. But his ability to drive with the ball, I mean, I almost feel bad for him that he didn't get a starting spot, even though Ramsey did have a good game.
Yeah, going back to the West Ham, he did have some bright moments going forward, but again, and I don't know if the reason he was. And another thing I want to say, I don't like to use the word dropped, and I hate when lineups come out and Ox was dropped. We now have a squad where I think it's more of a case where different players are selected as opposed to X player is dropped necessarily, but we don't know exactly why Chamberlain wasn't selected. I'd like to think that we saw him give away the ball cheaply for the second goal. We saw him do that against Monaco last season. I would like to think it was a bit of a message being sent from Wenger to Chamberlain saying, listen, you have great attributes going forward. You're exciting. You got pace. You add a lot to our team. You have to cut out these lazy kind of just lackadaisical mistakes where you just give the ball away in our defensive third, because at this level, when you do that, you're going to get punished. And I think it's a good lesson for Wenger to show Chamberlain at this point of his career. You have to be consistent. You can't pick and choose when you're focused and when you're playing at a high level. And I actually thought when he was subbed on, I thought his body language was terrible. I thought he had a few moments right when he first came on where there's a few passes or loose balls that he kind of gave up on. And I kind of felt like he felt like, oh, woe was me, and I didn't start, therefore I'm going to kind of pout and moan. And I could be wrong, but that's kind of the vibe I got from watching him. And of course, I'm not there. I have no insight knowledge to know if that's true. But that's kind of the vibe I got from him. So I think again, but we have the squad, we have the depth now where Wenger can dole out those lessons if need be, and guys don't have a guaranteed starting place, every week in, week out. If they continue to make mistakes and lose focus, they won't be selected the next week. And I think that's a good problem to have on our hands.
All right, now speaking of right wing positions, or more of a striker now, Theo Walcott didn't even come on as a sub. That's not too. If he doesn't start, I don't expect him to be subbed on if we're winning necessarily, because we always like having Giroud for the height. But I mean, it's been 2 games without him starting. Where do you see him fitting into the future lineups? Because I mean, it looks like so far, if Ramsey's not going to play on the right, it's going to be the Ox. So, I think Walcott's looking more of a backup striker to Giroud rather than a backup winger to Ramsey. So where do you see Walcott getting games? He just signed a new contract. He just did incredible over preseason and towards the end of last season. And then now it seems like he's just been kind of shut out of the team. I know it's 2 games. I shouldn't say shut out because it sounds a lot like dropped. But he's not started 2 games in a row. What are the games then that Walcott will be starting?
It's a fair point to bring up, and I don't know what the answer is, because when he did get some starts up top on his own, he's had some mixed results going back to the end of last season. I don't think you can rely on him playing up top on his own as a pure number 9, because he doesn't have the physical attributes. He can't hold the ball up. He can't bring others into the game. He's kind of a one dimension, get behind the lines and use his pace and being in that position. So I don't think that helps the team to play him up there on his own. So the question is, yes, is he going to play then out in a wide position? And it looks like, we want to try to bring in. It looks like Wenger always is going to prefer playing every time. It's going to be Coquelin, Ramsey, Cazorla, Ozil midfield combination, right? So, and if Alexis is fit, he's going to start. So where does that leave Theo? Again, I think he's okay. Maybe he's a backup striker, but I don't think as a number 9, if you're going to bring him on straight on for Giroud, I don't think that benefits the team, and I don't think that plays to his strength. Again, I think you could mix and match it depending on the matchups, depending on the type of defenses we're playing. So maybe he'll mix around with that. But I think he's going to have to find his minutes primarily in a wide position. But it's going to be tough to come by, again, because if Ramsey's going to be playing out there, and again, you got Alexis and Ozil in the other 2 kind of midfield front 3 positions, not a lot of time, not a lot of room for both Theo and Ox. Now here's where you can rotate and get guys different starts and keep guys fresh, and hopefully that's going to be the formula Wenger is going to have to find out to not only keep guys fresh, keep legs fresh, keep our attacking prowess very fluid, but also keep guys happy, because all those guys want to be on the pitch and they all have the qualities to perform at a high level. So it's going to be interesting to see, but I don't think there's an easy answer for that Theo Walcott question right now.
Because I mean, if you think about it, I mean, obviously this is a good situation if we keep winning with this lineup that we have, or at least a similar one. But it does mean that players who are on the bench who might not come in, who used to be starters, Walcott, Chamberlain, even Gibbs. Oh, by the way, speaking of Gibbs, you called it however many months ago. I swear he is the most disinterested player. He is just happy taking his paycheck. Because I think he genuinely does want to stay at Arsenal. I think he grew up here and does really love the club. But oh my God, he just does not at all seem to care that he's not. Even it doesn't seem like a question anymore. If you asked me a year ago today, who I'd rather have, Gibbs or Monreal, I'd 100% say Gibbs.
Mm-hmm.
Then it turned to kind of maybe Monreal. Then it turned to definitely Monreal, and now it's 100% Monreal. There's no question which left back you rather have. So, what do you think about Gibbs's future here at Arsenal? Because I mean, hey, look, if he's happy to take a paycheck, I mean, he is a good backup left back, but I have to admit, he didn't even look that interested when he came on as a left winger. He didn't really inject that much pace or energy into the game like you thought he would be. He was kind of running
Yeah.
around lazily. So what do you think about the future for Gibbs here at Arsenal?
Yeah, I mean, what is he, 20, 25? He's got England caps. He was once, I mean, at one point, not too long ago, he was basically the starting left back for England. And now that he's no longer first choice, and really by a long shot, and not maybe, I think it's more so that Nacho has earned it more than that Gibbs has fallen out of favor and lost the place. But it's interesting with some players. He almost looks like when he got that starting spot at Arsenal, that it almost seemed like a switch turned off in his internal kind of monologue, his internal motivation to say, okay, I've made it. I'm here. I've gotten to the top. I can kind of stop now. I can kind of stop working. I can kind of turn down the aggression, turn down the work ethic. And again, I could be wrong. I don't know what his work ethic is like at the training ground. I don't know what he does on his time off. But you see, again, you see the body language. You see kind of in his performances when he does come on, he does look a bit content to be a 25-year-old Englishman on good wages, living in London, and good-looking lad. I'm sure he's got a very healthy social life. He kind of looks like he's happy where he's at in his career. And if he's happy, that's fine. I mean, as a backup left back, he's a great squad player. There's no doubt about it. Will he remain happy as a number two for the remainder of his career? Probably not, but like I said, as it stands now, it's a good option to have as a number two, and Nacho is absolutely taken on the number one spot and just run away with it. So I mean, overall, with that position, I'm happy with the situation we have.
All right, and speaking of number twos, let's look at the number two on the other side of the field. Not only the number two right back, but also the number two in the squad, Debuchy. I think I was listening to Arscast, and both of them were saying that he's not really done anything wrong, but at the same time, if you ask me if I'd rather have Bellerin or Debuchy, for me it's Bellerin. I mean, yes, he's defensively probably a little bit worse, but even though he is defensively worse, Bellerin most likely compared to Debuchy, he still has that amazing amount of pace to be able to come back and catch up to somebody like a Yannick Bolasie. So, where do you see Debuchy going? Because he moved to Arsenal, and again, I'm sure he's happy that he's here. His wage bill's probably gone up a lot from when he was at Newcastle. But at the same time, I mean, he's 30 years old, career only has a few years left, really. So, yeah, I can't imagine he's too happy being replaced by a 19-year-old in Bellerin. Do you think Debuchy will get many games this season? Do you think we'll ever see any rotation? Maybe Gibbs and Debuchy come in for a few games, or do you think they're only going to really play in cup competitions?
I think when it's all said and done, I think Debuchy will get, if I had to put a number to it, between 10 and 15 starts. Between a bit of rotation. I think we've seen a few niggling injuries with Bellerin over the past 2 years, and again, still being young, body still developing quite a bit. I think we'll have learned our lesson from the Wilshere scenario, and I think Bellerin will get his rotations, his rests. I feel a bit bad for Debuchy as a whole because he really never got his full-on chance to hold down that right back spot. I mean, he came in last season, started, got that freak ankle injury where he just turned over his ankle. came back, was starting again, and then got shoved over by Arnautovic against Stoke and separated his shoulder out for a long term. And then luckily as a club, Bellerin was able to step up and make huge strides. So, again, but he is 30. He's won a cup since coming to Arsenal. He's not going to make, at this point of his career, any big money moves anywhere else. Anywhere he goes from this point on, he's probably going to have to take a pay cut if he does leave. So I think he'll get enough game time where he'll be content. Of course, as a professional footballer, I'm sure he won't be thrilled the fact that he's not starting, but that's what you have in some teams. And I think if we're able to get him enough starts, enough game time, that'll be a good balance to have kind of that defensive stability to fill in if Bellerin does need a rest or is absent through injury or rotation.
Yep. No, I think that's very good points. Anyway, moving on to one of our last topics here. We talked about him a little bit before, but Mesut Ozil. I mean, 98.2% pass accuracy. I think it was 37 out of his 38 passes were in the final third. So that's encouraging. That it's not just him on our own half just passing it back to Santi Cazorla or something. He made a lot of runs forward, and I think Wenger said that as well. That we talk about Ozil maybe not scoring enough, but he made a lot of runs that our players like Ramsey and Cazorla didn't really spot. But he made a lot of runs towards the center backs in and beyond. So if we can try to get him some of those, then he could improve his finishing from that, and then bag a few more goals and shut up freaking Robbie Mustoe. But yeah, what do you think of Ozil? I mean, he looked really good in the Crystal Palace game, and hopefully we can see more of that in the bigger games as well.
The main thing I'll say about Mesut Ozil, and we've hyped him up. He's a brilliant player. I mean, everyone knows this. The attribute he brings, him and only really a handful number of people on planet Earth can pick out the types of passes he does to create chances. You look at the chance he created for Ramsey, that little scoop pass that Ramsey fired over the bar with his left foot. I mean, that's such a deft touch. It's such the vision that you have to find such tight spaces. I mean, like I said, there's really only a handful number of players in the world that can do that, and Mesut Ozil is at the top of that class. He really is. So you give him runners, you give him players who are willing to make the runs in behind, a la the Theos, the Alexises, the Ramseys. The assists and the goals and the output, it's going to come because he has the vision, he has the timing, he has the skill to find out those runs. So I'm really not worried about him again. And people that can't see it, that just don't see it with him, I just feel sorry for them because they're missing out on a true artist on the pitch. I mean, they really are. So I'm not concerned with the criticism. Listen, when he has a bad game, when he's not at his best, hey, criticism's fair, just for anyone, just like anyone else. I mean, no one's exempt from it, and not just on an Arsenal standpoint. Every player, on any other team. But brilliant player, and listen, since he's come to Arsenal, 2 FA Cups, 2 years. So, I mean, that's really all that needs to be said. The guy's a winner, and he makes the team better. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, you really can't say much more about Ozil than when you talk about trying to get Cazorla, Ramsey into the team and trying to see where you're going to fit them. Because, I mean, we just assume Ozil's going to be number 10. That says enough, honestly, that the fact that with all the criticism he's gotten from outside people, but also Arsenal fans, we've all criticized him at least once, but we always still say, okay, he's automatically going to be the number 10 in the team. And, that's a huge thing for him because, I mean, if you think about it, I think if we have the opportunity to play him every game, minus the League Cup, I think we will. I mean, I think Wenger honestly just loves him. So hopefully this season he'll not necessarily prove the critics wrong, because I think he's already starting to do that now. But just have a lot of people recognize his artistry, like you were saying, because it is frustrating when people don't see the little flick passes that he does, or even I think against Chelsea it was in the Community Shield where he had the ball on the left and I think Monreal might have made an overlap, but it was kind of an overlap where Ivanovic was still in the way. So if he passed it to Monreal, it wouldn't have been worth anything. But I think he picked his head up, found Wolcott, um, just made that 20-yard horizontal pass, and then Wolcott found
Hmm.
Chamberlain, and then it ended up being a goal. So yeah, Ozil does have those bug eyes for some reason.
Well, if you want to look at one stat, if you have to look at a stat with Ozil, look at his chances created, and then look at his assist numbers. I think, and I don't have the exact number, but I know it's at least 130 plus in his time at Arsenal so far, and he's only got, I think that's number's correct. It's around that number, and he's only got what, 15 total assists. So again, all he can do as a creator, as a number 10, as a magician is create the chance. He needs finishers to finish off his chances that he makes. So again, the more time he's got with Alexis, with Theo, with
With
maybe a new
Benzema,
striker,
with Benzema, with
yeah, even with
Sonogo, you know.
even with a player like Welbeck, to be honest, because he's willing to make those runs in behind, he will find those players. It's up to those guys to finish off the goddamn chances. So
Yeah.
he can only do so much, and he's lived up to his end of the bargain as far as I'm concerned. So
I'm definitely confident after Sonogo got that hat trick a couple weeks ago for Ajax that he'll come back even stronger, ready to go. First, we have that number 9 shirt open and available. So, come on, yeah, come back to us.
we can't just give that number 9 away to any old strike when you have Sonogo waiting in the wings.
Oh, he's holding out. All right. Anyway, so that pretty much wraps it up for the main part of this talk. But now let's move on to the Liverpool game. They've done pretty well so far. I watched actually the last 40 minutes of the Liverpool Bournemouth game. And to be fair, Liverpool really did not look that good. I mean, I think if we really
No.
take the game to Liverpool, if we really start as high tempoed as we did against Crystal Palace and as we did against Chelsea in the Community Shield, I think we have a chance. I mean, looking at Liverpool's team and looking at their lineup, probably going to start with Mignolet goal, Klein right back, Skirtle and Lovren as the 2 center backs, Gomez at the left back, who I will talk about in a second. Milner probably is going to have to be captain if Jordan Henderson doesn't recover from his ankle injury that he got. So he'll probably then have to play alongside Emre Can, who does definitely have the potential to be good, is a strong lad, and I see he does have qualities, but was also very liable and when he played center back for Liverpool last season. So he could give away the ball quite easily in that defensive midfielder position. And then we have Ibe, I really don't know how to pronounce it, playing on the wing. Coutinho is the number 10, but he'll probably be switching a lot with Lallana, who's also probably on the other wing, with Benteke up front. So, not a bad lineup, but one thing I wanted to say about Gomez, their left back, and of course I didn't know too much about him. I'm not going to pretend like I knew who he was really before he came to Liverpool. Looks like a decent player, but one thing I noticed was that, like Azpilicueta, he's actually a right-footed player and does tend to kind of stick to his right foot. So, although I do think Ramsey did have a good game on the right, possibly could help out Gomez in that situation because, I mean, like you said, Ramsey's not going to stick to the right necessarily, but if Ramsey does cut inside from the right, Gomez is more likely to be a better tackler because he'll have his right foot on that left side. So could be a tactical thing, but my guess is if everybody's fit, Wenger's just going to put the same lineup he did against Crystal Palace. What do you think?
Yeah, all due respect to Bournemouth, they just simply don't have the quality that really tested Liverpool's defense at all. I mean, they should have had the goal that got called off the corner, and Liverpool's goal should not have been allowed. So they actually should have lost the match, to be honest, and they didn't create much apart from that. So, listen, I think we'll absolutely do them on Monday. I really do. I just think 1 through 11, we're the superior side. Now, of course, that's same to be said against West Ham. So if we don't come out and, like you said, start up with a high tempo and really, make ourselves known from the get-go, we can give it, can be a difficult match. But I think 1 through 11 we should dominate. I think we will, actually. I think we'll make a statement. I think Liverpool will be found out. They just don't have that much quality across the pitch. I mean, you see it, especially with Henderson's injured, Milner as a Lallana. They don't instill that much fear in me. I mean, we've seen what we can do with Benteke. He's a pretty standalone, stagnant type of striker. I think we can handle him just fine. And the back four, I think we can pick them apart, kind of like we did last year at the Emirates. So I'm confident we'll come out and it'll be a big statement match for us on Monday.
Yeah, I'm really hoping so too, as I'll be there. But what do you think about our lineup? Do you think it's going to be the same as we did against Crystal Palace, or can you see any changing around? Maybe a Theo Walcott comes in or an Oxlade-Chamberlain?
I don't have really any reason to believe we'll make changes to the 11. Again, Santi's going to be in there, Coughlin's going to be in there, Ramsey's going to be in there, and Ozil's going to be in there. I think those are really the first four guys on the team sheet, just based off balance and roles played. And obviously Alexis, and I think, maybe does Giroud, do you swap Theo for Giroud? Again, another thing that could be based off matchups and types of, should be a little more room for Theo to maybe run in behind Liverpool defense. So that could be a reason for it. But again, I think Giroud just gives much more of a balanced play to that number 9 position, where I think it would be hard to see him not selected for place of Theo. So I think we'll see the same 11.
Yeah, I think we'll see the same 11, but I do agree that usually when we play the big teams, bar Chelsea, who just like to sit back, but yeah, when we play the Uniteds, the Cities, the Liverpools, especially Spurs, they tend to hold a higher line because obviously they want to be more attacking. So Walcott could be a good possibility, but I think you're right. I don't think he'll start, but definitely if we're drawing or losing by around the 60-minute mark, I definitely bring on a Theo Walcott.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, again, you look at Theo and Ox on the bench. Those are fantastic options to bring on second half when back four's legs are a bit tired and can spring those traps and really influx some energy, some pace, and then a completely different dimension into the game. So either way, I think we have good options starting or coming off the bench there.
All right, well that pretty much wraps up most of the Arsenal talk. So I guess we'll just move on to shoutouts and predictions. Actually, we'll just start out with predictions. So I have to find the Word document for our predictions. I guess we never really ended up figuring out who won in the predictions, but I'm going to try to find something better to use for this. All right, but let me just go ahead and find this. And I'll have to ask Stevie and Suhail what their predictions are for this game, too. Come on. There you go. Arsenal predictions table. Okay, delete everything here. New season. All right, Arsenal v Liverpool. All right, Ryan. So what do you think the score will be and first goal scorer?
I think it'll be a dominant 2-0 result. Ramsey is going to pop up for the first goal.
Perfect. Like the sound of that. All right. And for myself, I think it's going to be a 3-1. I think it's going to be a tense 2-1. Maybe not tense, but I think it's going to be a 2-1 for quite a while, and then we'll see us maybe after 80 minutes get a third one to just kind of wrap it up. We'll actually wrap up a game. I know that sounds crazy, but I think that's probably going to happen, and I'm going to go ahead and say Ozil's going to get that first goal. He looked quite good, and if somebody can just pass him the ball when he makes those runs beyond the line, I could definitely see him finishing and scoring more goals this season. Anyway, now we'll move on to shout-outs. So do you have a shout-out today?
Yeah, I'll give a shout-out to Arsenal in My Blood listener, Peter Kennelly, all the way down
perfect.
in the OZ. He's good he's a great listener, provides great feedback, but also he provides great random Australian political talk via Twitter. That I have no clue what he's referencing or talking about, but I appreciate the information about Australia politics nonetheless. Thank you, Peter.
All right, I gotta admit, next time you see him post anything, you just gotta comment being like, "What a load of shit you're talking about," but I pretend that you know what you're talking about. Oh, that'd be great. My shout out goes to
goddamn Sydneyites.
Yeah, you're like, I have no idea what you're saying, Peter. You're completely wrong. That'd be just fantastic. But yeah, I'm gonna give my shout out to somebody who I've given a shout out to a couple times before. You know, at Aldrian CG, so ALDRIANCG. He's one of those guys who, oh God, he has 21,000 tweets. So I mean, yeah, he's always on Twitter. He's tweeted a lot to us, sent us a lot of questions. By the way, we'll have listeners' questions again for next week. Is just with the whole timing thing, couldn't really get that in there before we recorded today. But yeah, just because I think he sent me a question a while ago when we were planning to do a pod, but because of scheduling conflicts, we couldn't get it done. So just wanted to honor him that with a shout out. So yeah, that's it with shout outs. How about we go into our own Twitters? Ryan, give the listeners your Twitter handle.
Yes, I am still at Rye Hennick. That's RYHENNICK. Feel free to send any abuse my way.
So how's the followership going? Since it's been kind of a dry spell, no Arsenal for a while.
Yeah. No, the got a late season surge. I'm steadily at 288 as the crow flies.
Perfect, love it. Yeah, then you can also follow me at AJ Gunners 14, so AJGUNNERS 14. And then also I'll make sure I give a shout to the other blokes who couldn't make it on today at Stevie_Hurst, so at STEVIE_HURST, and then at Sahil GMZ, so at SUHELGMZ, or Z, like he likes to say. English people, am I right?
That's right.
Anyway, so that actually pretty much wraps it up. This is an American podcast. We talk about soccer. We have no idea what we're talking about, but we just kind of fudged our way through this one, didn't we?
It was good. It was fun, and hopefully next week we'll get that British core back onto the podcast.
Yeah, I do kind of miss that chocolatey, sexy sound of Stevie Hurst. But anyway, that is it from us today at Arsenal in My Blood podcast. And as always, up the arse.